Let me tell y'all, I'm all about the fun in here. I love laughing, y'all know that, but every now and then something comes out, we got to get serious, especially when we got to bring awareness to it.
Where did you see the lady?
What lady?
The female jogger was severely beaten and raped.
Every black male who was in the park last night is a suspect.
You know, I tell people one time, go to dtmerch.com, and that's the only time. I don't say, if you don't like it, you don't want it. Hey, man.
I should have seen this one coming. I was like, man, he's dragging this shit out.
Yeah, I was like, it's been too long.
Talking about this.
Hey, man, I only ask him one time, do you want this classic black tee with the white logo? Nope. Okay, sir. Are you sure? Man, Martin over here, I think you have, but you say that you've never heard of the Central Park Five.
I mean, I may have heard about the story, but I don't know. It's kind of lost to me right now.
I brought this up a long time ago before Trump got elected, when I was telling people this guy's an asshole. And one of the examples that I gave is that he still hasn't apologized for a certain incident where he wished death on 5 innocent boys.
In 5 different newspapers on the front page.
Exactly.
Brought the whole front page out.
Exactly. And that brings us to
Piece of shit.
This.
And also, he didn't not only did he not apologize when he was campaigning, he said they're still not innocent.
Yeah. Yeah, he's that goes very deep right here. No, man. That brings us to the series that we have right here, When They See Us, by famed director Ava DuVernay. She out there now. She done left that silly shit alone. She back out there telling people truth. Some of you've heard this, so deal with us as we kind of brush people up on the story for those that haven't.
Bear with us.
This is about 5 boys who, on the night of April 19th, 1989, they got caught up in a bad crowd. And it just so happens on that same night when this crowd got kind of rowdy out in Central Park, there was the assault and rape and sodomization of a female jogger. And these 5 young men, boys, I'm going to say young man because that's a part of the problem that people are seeing them as men when they were just teenagers, 13, 14, 15.
Right.
16. And they were just randomly accused of the crime, only to be proven innocent later. It is one of the, and it was so bad the way this investigation was handled, the way the arrest was handled, the way the prosecution was handled, and the way they were their lives, their youth was taken away from them. It is one of the biggest settlements in New York history, if not the biggest settlement in New York history when it comes to a case like this. These $41 million for these 5 guys who are men now, yeah. And that's them today. As I said, this happened like 30 years ago. Now, what this does, because there's a movie already out there. Who's I forgot his name. The guy that did like Civil War and all, this documentarian who did
Ken Burns?
Ken Burns.
Yeah, Sarah Burns' daughter did a documentary about it.
This is because there's already been a documentary out there about the case.
A woman jogger was found unconscious and partially clothed in Central Park.
Central Park was holy. It was the crime of the century.
And in a way it was. It was because mostly the media just putting this out there and the way they put it out there, it was a very high profile case that happened. Now that's the trailer for the documentary. What this show, which is a 4-part miniseries, what it wants to do, it's going to attempt to show you more insight from the boys' perspectives, how they were coerced into confessing to this crime, and also the effect that it had on their lives, the families' lives, and the image that it gave New York once this whole case was over, and later they were found innocent. And also how things just fell apart for them during their imprisonment, and also how they kind of were able to pull through somehow, miraculously, through this whole case. As I said, they went in as boys, and it was between 7 and 13 years later that some of them were released. So they lost their youth during that whole time. Let's go ahead and take a look at the trailer, and we'll be back with our review.
Where did you see the lady?
One lady.
I don't think we should admit to something that we didn't do.
Now, as I was saying before we even started, this is something that if you watch it, I mean, it's just, unless you just rooting to see 4 black and 1 Hispanic boy just thrown in jail and mistreated and abused and coerced into doing something that they didn't commit. There's no way in hell that you can watch this without having some heated emotions and be very angry. And of course, people be angry, and you would be more angry after watching this to know that not only are some key players out there who have not apologized for this, but have gone on to reach certain levels of success. As we just mentioned, one of the most high-profile people who have not apologized for rooting for the death of these boys is Donald Trump. Donald Trump, from the beginning, Donald Trump was, and this is why Donald Trump is scary as a president, man. All you have to do is go back and just look at documented history of him and see how much he just leads and how much he not only leads his presidency, but himself, how he leads his life by pure emotion. He tried to come out and he talked about how he hated these boys, but he tried to pretty much start like a media lynch mob. Yeah. He said everybody else, he said, I shouldn't just hate these boys, but everybody else should be hating their black asses too.
He said, oh, sorry.
You better believe that I hate the people that took this girl and raped her brutally. And it's more than anger, it's hatred.
And as you were saying earlier, Billy, Trump went as far as to, I mean, this is how lynch mobs are.
Sure.
You know, this is what he was doing. He, as you were saying, he took out ads.
Front page ads. Not like a whole page of the paper, front page ads.
Bring the death penalty back. Bring back our police. This is why I tell people, and people don't listen to me. This is why I tell people, I don't understand. It sickens me, and I don't mind saying it. If anybody knows when I say this, I don't really give a. It sickens me to hear people of color say, I'm for the death penalty. If the death penalty had been around, where for these boys were at the time, if the death penalty had been a thing, they'd be dead for something that they didn't do. The incarceration rate of people of color is higher than anything else, and there are people who have died of wrongful convictions because of death penalty out there. I fucking hate that, and I don't care if anybody, you could be my friend, my enemy, you can be a relative. If you say you before the death penalty after seeing something like this, you're fucking sick, man. These kids would have died, and they would have and they would have died, and by the time they figured out what happened, it would have been too late. They would have not come back. Another person who is out there, I mean, who as bad as Trump is, as bad as he seems for rooting for these boys to die, he still was not. He didn't have his hands on the case. That goes to and look, I ain't gonna hold back on this. I'm sorry. That goes to this bitch right here. Ironically named Linda Fairstein. Fairstein. She, the thing that's going on with her, she was the head of the sex crimes unit in New York from 1976 to 2002.
I'm going to say from 1906 to 2002.
Despite overwhelming evidence that was out there that these boys had nothing to do with this, she, for some reason, has something to prove. Now, like I said, if you go by this film, because I know it is a dramatization, and I don't want to go in just having my emotions just so heated that I'm just kind of just lashing out at things because I'm just mad. But there's no denying how she and her department handled this. There was so much evidence, not only that they did not do it, but if they had actually, it was such a badly conducted case that if they had done their job right, they would have saved themselves years and found the guy that had done it. She had something to prove. She fought to have the case.
It was a high profile case.
And in the film, she's played by Felicity Huffman, which is funny because she's a real criminal in real life.
I know.
So it's just kind of like, damn, now I really want you to go to jail for just playing this bitch right here.
I was mad.
Yeah.
Her trial, everybody's biased against her just because of this role.
Oh, this ain't doing her no favors, man.
Because the thing about it is, the bad thing about it is not doing any favors because she's so fucking good in it.
She is. She's too good.
She's too good, man.
It's like
she's Michael Fassbender 12 years of slave good.
Yeah, it's
right.
It's like the prosecutors coming in on her case to put her away. All they're gonna do is just come on, put on this movie.
Yeah.
Even the judge gonna be like, I saw that shit too. Guilty. I'm done. I'm out.
I don't need any testimony.
Yeah. Here's what's so frustrating with Linda Fairstein, not so Fairstein.
Yeah.
Thing that's going on with her is that she is an author. She's been writing books this whole time. It's funny because she's been writing these series of novels based on a character called Alexander Cooper, and they're all crime novels. And I'm just kind of like, well, how appropriate. You're good at making up crimes anyway. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, shit, why not? And on top of that, she also writes a children's book series of crime novels or detective novels.
Oh, don't say Nate the Great.
No. I think she wrote that book, How to Frame a Nigga. Another case closed.
What evidence do you have? Well, he's black. Good enough for us.
That's the shortest book she wrote right there. Yeah, 2 pages long.
And that's the bibliography.
2 pages long. The cover, he did it, the end. Well, that was good. Boy, that was a page turner.
A cover turner.
I'm ready to start my next book. I'm ready to Stephen King over here.
Yeah. Now let's do one. Let's write one where the Mexican did it.
But that picture's so appropriate because she looks like she's up to something.
Oh, she is up to something. She got that look like I'm about to put his black ass away.
Come right this way. She's pointing.
It's almost like she wrote this book about herself.
Oh God,
man, it's just too weird. Come on, it's like really? You put 4 black dudes away. You got the nerve to write this shit.
Yeah.
You got a nerve that this nigga walking around solving crime. This white chick. Oh, it's so shitty all around. She is a successful author, man, of crime novels, which the bitch is a criminal herself for lying to put 4 innocent black boys and 1 innocent Hispanic away. And she has never apologized for it, and it's out of ego to this day. And I'll get into and we're going to revisit this. Y'all keep this in mind, because what goes around comes around. But she has never apologized for this. And today is still fighting it, because it's not because she thinks that she really conducted that in a fair way. She's defending herself because she don't want to lose her book deals. Mm-hmm. She don't want to. She don't want to. She don't want to lose a publisher. She doesn't. You know, and she doesn't want to actually have this come back around to haunt her and give her a bad image, and what is probably the last stage of her life. What this wants to do, this wants to take a closer look again at the boys and the fallout on them and the families. And Ava DuVernay is also taking as she's done in the past, she's taking a harsh look at the justice system, mass incarceration of people of color, and a system that's meant to not only place them in there, but also is built to bring them back in and keep them in the system. This is something that she did so well. It's almost like this was prep. Ava DuVernay, by the way, has, again, she has a long history of bringing this sort of consciousness and education to cinema. She did it with, Selma. She did it with Selma. And she did it with working with Netflix again. She did it with The 13th.
Then they said, we're going to take you to the precinct, and most likely we're going to let you go home. And then I never went home.
And that is funny. It was this is foreshadowing what happens in this movie. It's almost like she was kind of driven to make this because of the work she did on The 13th, which is a documentary. Again, this is an actual film, but it's based on real events. She even touches a little bit on how the media handles situations, especially when it comes to black boys, how they are considered not only adults, but they also the reporting on these cases sometimes is driven to dehumanize young black boys, because with this they call them a wolf pack. Wolf pack's prey. Female jogger near death after savage attack by a roving gang.
Did Mel Gibson write that copy?
I was going to say.
Well, now we said pack of niggas, yeah. But also it had they used their words against them. Because they would describe, they said, well, what were you doing and what were your friends doing? Oh man, we were just nothing. We were just out there wilding out. And they put on the front page, wilding out.
Yeah.
ravaging.
Okay, now I do remember that because I remember when that was being said, Wilded Out.
So the way this is split up is split up in 4 parts. You got your first part, which of course is the setup. You got the second part, which is the courtroom drama and how it starts to actually tear these families apart. Third is the fallout for the family and how the boys have aged, how they went in as boys and came out as men, and how they're dealing with, how they dealt with being in prison, but also how they're dealing with adjusting when they get out.
Yeah.
And then the last part is a little unusual because it's the conclusion, but it centers on one particular kid for a specific reason. I know for the first part, it's what I like about it is that it does try to be a little bit fair because in the beginning they showed our main characters of Central Park 5 as teenagers, and they're just they're kids being kids.
Yeah.
They don't actually shy away from showing people of color committing violence and crime. It's like I don't know what sparked this, but it was a riot going on. A bunch of people in the park just harassing white people. They were on their bikes. They were beating up. They were just beating up people.
Well, it was one of those things they used to go to those little block parties they used to have in Central Park. So they're running up to go catch up to that. But there's some thugs there too. That's what I think was going on. And then they were every time somebody ride a bike, like with them or do something like that. And then they saw one guy get punched.
One guy, punched one.
But
dude.
they were in the group. They weren't. I don't know if they were doing it or not. I couldn't tell with the way it was shot because it was kind of dark. But they were all there doing shit. People were doing shit.
Yeah, and
but
since
not
everybody
raping and trying to kill.
No, they weren't doing that, but they were still doing some foul shit. But
Right.
but of course they were trying to have a party, and so some of these
around.
other kids to be cool, they were like, "Come on out." And even though some of them were doing bad things, and they weren't, nobody's denying that. It still doesn't change the fact that these boys didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't change that some people haven't apologized. As I said, it doesn't change that the crimes of others were used against them during this part of this series, during the first part. The thing and that's the victim right there. Right. And the thing that's infuriating about this is that even though you're talking about these boys, and you're talking about their innocence, you still have to remember that a woman was raped.
Yeah.
And they don't ever really say this, but it should be mentioned that during that part, Felicity Huffman as Linda Fairstein, she's always talking about how we got to get justice for this girl that was raped. Who's going to do something about this violent crime that happened? At the same time, she's doing the biggest injustice to this girl, just trying to get anybody in there, while she knows that the killer is free.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about these boys, even though this is the highlight of the story. That poor woman, she was never going to get justice because is that justice just putting anybody in there while the person who actually did the crime? I mean, if that satisfies you, then there's something wrong with you.
And the only reason it came out that he did it was because he was serving a life sentence for something else. So he said,
yeah, he just
went ahead and went ahead and admitted to it. And 12, 13 years later, but the DNA supported that he did do it.
Right.
If he had never confessed to this crime, those boys would probably still be in jail.
That's always weird to me when they have something like this and it turns out the person who really committed the crime is locked up somewhere, because you'd think they'd have a database that would show that.
Well, DNA wasn't around back then, was it? DNA didn't start.
But
till the 80s,
even with
right?
fingerprints, it happens a lot.
Well, they were using it here because they were actually trying to get DNA from certain things, even DNA that they were just going to use that had nothing to do with the case. Like,
okay. Well, I guess DNA started in the 80s, maybe.
It wasn't as strong as it is today.
Right.
But they were definitely trying to use it to use it against these boys, and they had none. The other infuriating thing about it is that during this time when they're coercing these kids into doing this, and again, I don't care what you say about how many good policemen are out there and anything, and there are some. So don't think I'm sitting up here trying to talk about all policemen, but they just show you how cowardly these cops are, because they're abusing these kids, physically abusing these kids, beating them up in the name of playing good cop, bad cop. But they are beating the out these kids.
Up. That's all they're doing.
Any cop, I don't give a who you are, man. You're a coward if you hide behind your badge and beat up a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Take that badge off and talk to some of these dudes you pushing around and see what happens. They show how they deprive these kids. They physically abuse them, mentally abuse them. They
no food, no water, no sleep.
They leave their parents out. They tell them, they tell them lies to get them to sign.
With no lawyer there, they'll deprive you of all that and sleep, and it's just, and somebody's your friend. They're like, listen, just sign this, and it'll.
You can go home.
Yeah,
they would take advantage of their ignorance of the law.
Yeah,
they knew some of the parents, because one parent who knew the law came in.
Yeah, and she still tried to keep her out.
Yeah, and she actually she exercised her rights and got her kid out of there to no real avail. But at least they respected her enough to let her take her kid, while they just kept the others in there and locked them up right away.
All minors, by the way.
Yeah,
you can't question a minor without their
exactly. Second part is of this is it's typical courtroom stuff that you got going on. But what is different here, because it really is a courtroom drama at this point, and what you see in movies and television shows. But what they show here is that they do not shy away from showing the harsh truth and realities of the justice system by saying, no, this is completely about politics and winning. To the point where even some people, the prosecutor, I believe her name is Elizabeth Lederer, who's played by
Sarah Paulson.
Vera Farmiga.
Vera Farmiga.
I'm about to say Sarah Paulson.
She's played.
She was in the OJ thing.
She's played by Vera Farmiga, and even in the movie, she's saying she's saying this is wrong. These boys, there's nothing that they have done here. I mean, are you sure you don't want to take another route on this investigation? And they're like, nah, either you're going to work with me or, we'll figure something else out. And she was saying, and that's what they said. They said, it's like, you get to a point where she said, well, I just have to deal with the reality that it's all about winning. It's all about politics and it's all about winning. And even she just kind of just stopped feeling sorry for people and just like, yeah, I'm just here to do my job and look like I'm doing it well. Which is, again, there's no justice involved.
Right.
It's all about how do I look at the end of it all. And they also rack up the tension a little bit, because the lawyers for the boys, they're not bad people, but they're kind of opportunistic. And because none of them are, except for maybe one lawyer, but a lot of them don't really have experience in this area of the law. Blair Underwood plays. They brought him in and he started talking, and people saying, "What kind of law do you practice?" He's like, "Divorce lawyer," and people are like, "Oh shit, God damn." Joshua Jackson, who was, and by the way, there's a huge cast here. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Joshua Jackson is actually really good. He's the one lawyer that seems like he really knows what he's doing, and he's really on their side. But he's so outnumbered with all, because they're all lumped together,
right?
And it's just, there was just no way out of it, man. But I'm really impressed with his performance. It's and that's where they really get you with the courtroom. That's where it rises above the typical courtroom drama. Just being very honest and saying, yeah, nobody gives a shit about justice, man.
This is so reminding me of The Night Of.
It very much feels like that. The HBO show called The Night Of. You know what? You're exactly right. I didn't even think about that, but it's exactly like that. And during the third part of this, the third episode, that's the part that is my favorite part, actually, because at least with that part, you get some relief with that, because it's during that part where you have great drama going on. And it's like time travel in a way, because they show some of these boys getting out and things have changed so much and they're trying to readjust. And also, this is the one that's really the most cinematically creative. They do some really, that's the one where they do a lot of things with music. They do a lot of things with cinematography. Freddie Mieres, who plays Raymond Santana Jr., his father's played by John Leguizamo, who's really good. But he had a really cool sequence where they showed this passage of time where it was just John Leguizamo having Raymond Santana Sr. having a conversation with his kid, and they're just going back and forth between the jail and the living room and just showing you how this kid is growing and changing. Yeah. So they do a lot of things with that that just just seem like they do more to make it seem like a movie.
Yeah.
They do a lot of narrative telling visually. But it's also the one where, like I said, it has a lot of drama, and it shows, this is the one where they show how the families are falling apart. Michael Kenneth Williams plays the father of one of the kids, and he just can't deal with it. And you see how this affects him. You see how it affects the rest of the family. You see how these guys come back and how, all they have is like really that portion of the neighborhood that really knows what happens and supports them, because they've been painted as villains at this point. And it goes to show how the fallout is just not them. It goes to show that the family members are getting fired from jobs because people who know that their relatives work at this place, they're just getting all these calls, hateful calls, death threats. It's how it affects their livelihood. But it's also the part where, like I said, man, they do certain things where they just show how these guys, once they get together, how they show them like saying, wow, through it all we've kept our humanity, and they're still just, when they get together, they still somehow manage to have a sense of humor. They still manage to support each other. They do a lot of stuff with music. There's a lot of good music, some old jams, some new ones that they play. New for that period. Yeah. And they work well with it. There was one part they playing Most Def. Umi says, "Oh yeah," for a particular scene, man. And it was like, wow, this is what you should do with a movie where when you want to like put in music, that's not like playing. It actually weaves itself into the story with the characters. It's like I was like, wow, man, this is really it's really doing well. And most of all, it just shows how it really is hard for felons to re-enter the system. It's not made. It is made. The system is rigged to send them back.
Mm-hmm. Can't vote. Can't do nothing.
You can't vote. You can't. You
got to put on every job.
You have to tell people you're a sexual violator. Right. And that's why you see people going back into doing drugs. Yeah. That's why when you look at drug dealers, not all of them are these evil, murderous people. Some of them are people who just don't know what else to do because they have no other ends or means to support themselves. That's when, and I got to say that this guy is really good in it too. Freddie Mieres as Raymond Santana, man. His seems like the most tragic out of all of them until they get to a certain point. I also want to give credit to some people in here because I would say, one of the criticisms that I have is that the first two seem to follow suit through telling a story. The third one at that point seems like they didn't have a hold. They were juggling so much. Not as many people got as much time as they needed. That guy JOvan Adepo, he plays Anton McCrae, one of the boys, and his story is kind of fascinating. He finds love. He's going out with, but his relationship is strained. He's the son of Michael Kenneth Williams. Yeah, and he has this estranged relationship with his father, and yet they don't spend a whole lot of time on it. They kind of introduce some key points and kind of move on. It's like, wow, man, I know you got a lot to do. I wish we could have found out more what was happening with that. And they're talking about how we all have to live on and get on with our lives, and they all find love and other ways to cope. And that seems like, all right, this is hopeful. And then you get to the fourth one, and the movie just says, "What's in your hand? Hope." Get that. Don't you ever bring hope up in here in front of me again? You keep thinking where they keep mentioning this kid Corey, and like, why aren't they? Okay, where's Corey? What are they doing with Corey? Corey got it the worst. Corey was just there to support a friend, and when one of the guys got let go that night, they even told him. They said, "Yeah, come down and support your friend. You ain't in trouble." And when that kid got let out, they were like, "Well, shit, we got a slot to fill. Bring your black ass here." Oh. And he got caught up just because he was taking up space that the police just needed another number.
Oh, wow.
Another nigga.
And he got it the worst. They sent him to the worst prison. He went through the worst experiences. He got the worst beatdowns. And the guy that plays him.
Dude from Moonlight, isn't he?
Yeah, Moonlight, Jharrel Jerome.
And he plays the older version too.
And he's the only one to play both the young version and the older version.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And throughout that look on his face right there, that's the majority of his story. Looking like that, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's he got the worst punishment, and he didn't get any chance of release unless he confessed to the crime. He never would do it, and they would just before that he got punished more for it. His experience was a nightmare. And I mean, more of a nightmare than the others, man, especially when you consider that he was not even meant to be there. There's a conclusion here, and if you know the story, that's the only thing that's really getting you through is knowing that like I said, it's not a spoiler here, knowing that they all got that settlement, that $41 million settlement.
Did they get it, not a piece? The 41
no, 41 to be dispersed between all of them. But still.
I think Corey got the most, and he got like 12.
But still, You know, the only thing you say is that good for them, because out of all the shitty people that you see here, you say that at least they got paid for it, and in the end they got more money than those assholes would ever see. But the cast in here, I mean, there's so many people. I'm not going to sit up here and name all of them, but it is a huge cast. You see some people you haven't even seen for a while, like Famke Janssen. Yeah, man. It's a huge cast of people here. And I got to say, I'm impressed with some of the performances that we got here with people who are normally considered to be comedic.
Like Niecy Nash?
Niecy Nash, she's great in this. She is amazing. And one of the things that's great with her performance is that one of the things that the movie does is that they present to you some of the parents in a certain light to where you're sympathetic towards them, and then they do something later to say, well, damn, even these parents are kind of shitty. Oh, wow. Yeah. It's an important film, and I feel like if I say that, how good it is to people, you're going to think that I'm saying it just because I'm partial to the issue. But it is powerful filmmaking that's going on here. Again, this is something why we need Netflix. Netflix was able to tell. I will say that I thought that the 4th episode was too long. I thought they could have wrapped it up a little bit more, but it's still. I felt like it was necessary to tell this as a 4-part miniseries.
They always did the last one though, because we got to get all this out in the last one. They always make it a little too long.
Yeah. The other thing that gets you through is seeing the repercussions today. What is happening to this bitch right here, and I couldn't be happier. Linda Fairstein, man. It took a long time, but they are actually, now she's actually starting to reap what she sows, man. Today, she's making the news where there's a lot of backlash against her. They're telling people to boycott her books. They're telling the publishing companies to drop her. She committed a fucking crime, man.
Yeah.
She is somebody supposed to be on the side of the law holding up this goddamn badge, and she committed a crime.
And she's supposed to be the one you're supposed to trust the most, too.
Yeah. She lied to put 5 innocent children in jail. And she's up here writing books.
And holding up a badge and a picture. That makes me sick.
Bitch committed a crime, and she's writing books about crime and making money off of it. She had to resign from a position that she had at a nonprofit because people chased her ass off of social media.
Yeah.
Yep.
And once people in this organization found out that she was there.
Wait, that was you?
People were just kind of like, no, people weren't even like, that's you. People like, she's been here the whole time.
Yeah.
And we didn't know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You talking about a nonprofit, that's way against,
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn. Did they take her home too?
Oh, damn, come on.
Where the fuck home?
Former Manhattan sex crime prosecutor Linda Fairstein, this is from the New York Post, resigned Tuesday from several nonprofit boards in the wake of a controversy triggered by a new Netflix series about the infamous Central Park 5 case. In a letter to the chairman of the State Horizon Victim Service Agency, Fairstein said she wanted to spare it further grief through association with her. To this day, she still says that this was conducted fairly. This was conducted with the well-being of these guys in mind. She says, and she says, get this shit. It was conducted with respect.
Oh, wow.
As I respectfully put your innocent ass in jail.
Yeah.
And I will be fair and say, if this is true, the way she handled it, and the evidence is out there. So if it's true, the way she handled this, when there was evidence that there was somebody who did, if they had done this case, if they'd done the investigation correctly, they would have caught this guy that night.
Right.
But if it is true that this is handled as sloppily as they say it is, and she's still out there writing books, the publishers need to drop her. Because at best, she's just shit at her job.
Well, no. At best, no.
At worst, she is a really evil person.
She allowed this guy to get away with God knows how many more rapes and murders and whatever the hell else he did. And when you focus, I'll say this again, when you focus on the wrong people, when you arrest the wrong people, the real people have all the time in the world to get away.
And you know something? And one of the Central Park 5, Raymond Santana, he came out and said, yeah, she committed a crime. I don't want an apology from her, and she does not deserve the success that she's getting right now.
You know, people are outraged. When all those articles were written about us, 90% of those articles never mention alleged. She has to pay for her crime, whether it's in the courtroom or whether it's socially. It is what it is.
And again, she won't say this out of ego. Same reason why Donald Trump will never say, he's still saying that they're probably guilty.
Yep.
Because he does not want to be wrong. Next time you hear Kanye sitting there here talking about, Trump, that's my boy. Somebody needs to get in front of Kanye's face and say, hey, man, remember when he wanted to kill 4 boys that look like you? Bitch. Kanye's such a whore. I hate that dude. I can't stand Kanye, man. I feel really bad because I want Felicity Huffman to go to jail so bad, and not even for the crime that she actually did in life.
Oh man,
I want for just being her.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. In this, you just go like the first 5 minutes, you're like, ooh, ooh. And it's like, man, this movie hasn't even kicked off yet, and like, I mean, she's already pissing me off.
Wow.
And she's like, they don't play around with the dialogue either.
No,
like, they're like, we need one more of these little motherfuckers to do this so we can get this closed. And like Vera Farmiga's character is like,
Jesus.
I'm
a villain too, but goddamn.
I mean, shit, tone it down.
Look like one of the pumpkins you left on the porch. 2
Aw.
months after Halloween.
That's
Shit.
it.
Goddamn hemorrhoid with hair. Look at you. You made it to the end of the video. You really care about us. But hit the subscribe button if you really love us. And you can give us more love if you go to our main site, doubletoasted.com. Over there, you'll find the long-form, unedited, uncensored version of this video, along with the live streams that we do almost every night of the week. Support us at dtmerch.com. And remember to always stay toasty.